Chant the name of the Lord and His glories unceasingly, that the mirror of the heart may be wiped clean and quench that mighty forest fire, worldly lust raging furiously within. O name, stream down in moonlight on the lotus heart, opening its cup to knowledge of thyself. O self, drown deep in the waves of His bliss, chanting His name continually, tasting His nectar at every step, bathing in His name, that bath for weary souls. Various are thy names, O Lord. In each and every name thy power resides. No times are set, no rites are needful for chanting of thy name. So vast is thy mercy. How huge then is my wretchedness, who find in this empty life and heart no devotion to thy name. O my mind, be humbler than a blade of grass. Be patient and forbearing like a tree. Take no honor to thyself. Give honor to all. Chant unceasingly the name of the Lord. O Lord and soul of the universe, mine is no prayer for wealth or retinue, the playthings of desires or the toys of fame. As many times as I may be reborn, grant me, O Lord, a steadfast love for thee. A drowning person in this world's fearful ocean is thy servant, O sweet one. In thy mercy, consider him as dust beneath thy feet. Ah, how I long for the day when an instant separation from thee, O Lord, will be as 1,000 years, when my heart burns away with its desires, and the world without thee is a heartless void. Prostrate at thy feet, let me be in unwavering devotion, neither imploring the embrace of thine arms, nor bewailing the withdrawal of thy presence, though it tears my soul asunder. O thou, who stealest the hearts of thy devotees, do with me what thou wilt, for thou art my heart's beloved, thou and thou alone. This prayer, translated by Christopher Isherwood and Swami Prabhavananda, called Chaitanya's Prayer, sums up today's topic as the progression of Bhakti. Bhakti, it has been the one theme of all religions. Sages and saints have all spoken about this. In fact, the major chunk of every religion is nothing but this devotion. But in Vedanta, it is just one of the paths. Bhakti, noun of course, the worship directed towards a supreme being, a supreme deity. The Vedantists will also add worship internal or external. Start bhakti, devotion, simple, just love. One ought to know oneself. People say, I have devotion to this, I have devotion to that. In a way, that is working towards oneself from the external. You love somebody and then you discover yourself. And Vedanta properly will say, okay, you start first discovering yourself and then you can love. Now, Bhakti Yoga is a genuine search, beginning, continuing, and ending in love. So a single moment of this madness of love, which is called the higher forms of devotion, brings us eternal freedom. There's a text called the aphorisms, the Bhakti aphorisms of Narada. So he defines Bhakti as, which Swamiji also has quoted, is intense love for God or to God. Satu asmin parama prema rupa. And you say, oh, it's the kind of a bhakti is like an abandonment and a kind of a wantonness. In love we see that kind of. Now, bhakti properly will be the form of control. It's controlled and directed towards one object. And what's the nature of this devotion? Immortality. Because the aphorisms say, amritatvat. So it is of the nature of immortality. So bhakti, they say, is greater than karma, greater than yoga, greater than... Because that is the engine that drives actually all yogas. If you don't have devotion to the goal or to the path or to your spiritual practices, it's very difficult to engage in yoga, that is Raj Yoga or Jnana, the path of devotion, knowledge, or even Karma Yoga. So this is the driver of all the other yogas. Sri Ramakrishna used to say, Swamiji used to say of Sri Ramakrishna, well, he was all bhakti outside and all jnana, knowledge, inside. While I am all knowledge outside and all bhakti inside. Later on we find that there's both those paths, they converge. When you love something, you know something. And when you know that particular thing, you begin to love that. Or the deity or whatever. So in ignorance, love doesn't grow. Then it becomes selfishness. And besides, we love ourselves, but we really don't know ourselves all over the world. So they say, direct this towards something higher. So you get to know yourself. The advantage is there is no being, living being, of course, I'm talking about, that doesn't love. Love is coexistent with life. In fact, if you're alive, you will love. There's no doubt about that. And you see this love displayed in all of creation. That means wherever there's life, where there's animation, there will be love. So it's a most natural way. So you have something, you don't have to acquire it. Like in the other yogas, you've got to undergo years of spiritual disciplines only to prepare yourself for the higher disciplines. And sometimes years, it takes decades sometimes, most of the times. So that's a great advantage in devotion of bhakti. It's natural. It just needs to be channelized to a higher ideal. The one disadvantage is, in its lower forms, it degenerates into fanaticism. And everywhere in all religions, you will find the fanatical crew. They've got their great, you can say, steadfastness to their religion. That's good. But they love their religion by hating all other religions. Fanaticism is that. So it's a kind of a paradox. You love your religion, yeah, but how? By hating all the others. And not only religions, but other deities also. Oh, no, that is all wrong. This is all wrong. Mine is good. But as bhakti becomes mature, then this fanaticism goes away. And then you will see the Lord in everything, in everywhere. As Chaitanya says, various are thy names, O Lord, and each and every name thy power resides. You will find this. And as it matures, no times are set, no rites are needful for the chanting of thy name. You will do it constantly. Why? Because you are alive and because you love constantly. And that's why that love now becomes directed towards something higher. So, before we can get into the progress of bhakti, how bhakti progresses, there are certain conditions that will enhance this great power of love that is within you. The first is cleanliness. Yeah, but then it is part of. As you keep on loving, you see you want the object of love to be clean, and then you also want to be clean. It's natural. So this is the first, you can say, condition as love. Kind of external purity, as it's called. There was one Swami who was a direct disciple of Sri Ramakrishna. So a novice had gone to get initiated from him. And he entered his room and he found Sri Ramakrishna's picture and full of dust. And he was that, you can say, fastidious about the altar not being clean, etc. I want it clean. So he started taking his answer. So that great Swami comes and says, you don't have to bother about this. You come and sit down here. So, being dissuaded. So you'll say, what is this state? That Swami was in the state of a Paramahamsa, the highest state possible of consciousness. He was in that consciousness. So he was not aware of the dust and dirt and all the things. So when you come to that state, that's a different thing. But when you begin, you've got to keep everything clean, including yourself, of course. Second is food. You will immediately know this food is agreeable or this food is not. Your sensitivity has grown tremendously. And of course, the scriptures give a long list of food that's agreeable and food that's disagreeable. But Swamiji brushed it saying, you will know what foods are agreeable and disagreeable. So yeah, we had, once I remember, we had gone to a nice restaurant and we had food and everybody was telling me, so Swami, how do you like the food? I'll tell you later. What do you mean later? I'll see how I can meditate tomorrow or today, tonight. So, and then I'll tell you if the food was good or no. Oh, really? Yeah, that's the way I look at food. Then the third thing is necessary is to have a check on yourself. You need to check yourself. Why? Because you need to conserve your energies. Don't keep on dissipating yourself. You'll end up like a kind of a wet rag, or you won't have that energy. So once bhakti begins, you will begin to understand there are certain things that are superfluous. you don't pay too much attention. You bring your focus to one area. And that is how you keep on conserving your energies. Now, these energies are nothing but these energies that run your body and mind. These energies are, as I say, the mind is on one side and the body is on the other side. So the energies, they suffuse the body and mind. So once you start conserving these energies, your body also picks up health, as well as also your mind becomes, you can say, powerful. Yes, it becomes bhakti. Any yoga, practice any yoga, your mind becomes very powerful. And then after this discerning of food and kind of external purity and all, what is important is internal purity. How do you purify yourself internally? Yeah, there are a list of things. First is to be truthful, to be not hurtful or harmful to anyone. And then we have, it's called straightforwardness. You don't have kind of a dual kind of double speak. Just you speak what you feel directly. It's called straightforwardness. And that's what happens when you start practicing, or you keep on practicing bhakti. This is what happens. It keeps on purifying you. And also we have compassion. So these things, truthfulness, non-injury, non-killing, straightforwardness, and compassion, purify the inner world of yours. And then we have strength. Now, we say, in India, we say, Vaishnav Morena Re or Sadhu Morena Khe. So, these, we always depict people of this class of bhakti yogis as real thin, denying everything here and there. And sadhus, on the other hand, they are nice and healthy. So you want to see a Vedantic sadhu, see his health first. You want to see a bhakti yogi, you see how thin and real thin. He's got squeaky voice and, he's got a hesitant look and all. But Swamiji brushed that on the side, saying, even in bhakti yoga, you need to have strength. Because when the mysterious forces which are in your psychic body, they awaken, they can disrupt not only your psychic life, your mental life and everything. So these psychic forces need to be channeled, and for that you need a strong body, a very strong body. Yes. So it can absorb the shock of those awakened energies. So Swamiji was very clear. So, Swamiji, they used to call Swamiji, in India, of course, a wrestler. He used to wrestle also when he was young, of course. And later he laid down rules for all of us. You guys don't wrestle, of course, but then you need to exercise. So that's the idea. It's having a strong body. And that strong body, you build up confidence, etc. So Swamiji is very clear, saying when the mysterious forces awaken, you need to contain them within your own body and mind. That is what. So physical strength is absolutely necessary. Then the mentally weak will not succeed. So when such a person aspires to some yoga, he'll come with some incurable malady. That person will see some light and he'll superimpose all the crazy things on that light. Oh, I've got something and this and that. And He'll beat the drums and all. So one test is you've got to be cheerful. You will be cheerful. When your mind is strong, you'll be cheerful. And Swamiji was always criticized. Why are you, as a preacher, having this kind of laughter and you're cracking jokes and all these things? They're saying. So he remarked later on, here in the US, if you're a religious person, you must have a long face and have a dark, you can say, cloud over it. And you have to appear grave and sometimes, even what do you say, dissolute, in the sense of you are not focused that way. So he was saying, no, that kind of, these are fit subjects for the doctor, he's saying. Not for Bhakti Yoga. And then he says, of course, he's saying, too much of sad seriousness is also bad, and too much of gaiety, hilarity, and laughter and all, that also is not good. So you must have that, as you can say, Taoism says, balance and harmony and peace. So it has to be. So this is how you prepare your body and mind to. So the first indication as you progress, as I've said before in many of my other previous talks, the first is you will have a kind of a steadfastness. You will not swerve from that steadfastness. But this is extremely important. And then as you are steadfast in your path, next is you get that into that devotion. So it is called Bhakti. Nishtha and Bhakti, steadfastness and then love. And then love becomes mature, it becomes bhava. That is your life energies, which also contains that love, etc., are now directed within. Not externally, it's within. So when we do worship, a daily or even a kind of occasional worship, what we do is we have an external worship with all the flowers and the sandal paste and lights and bells and sounds and everything. But part of that worship is internal. So, and later on, the external worship drops away and the internal one progresses. So the internal worship is now become consolidated. That's the third stage of bhakti, when it's getting into the bhav. Until and unless you don't get into this state, what is the bhav? I mean, it has hundreds of, I'll tell you why, hundreds of definitions. Because it's a very ancient word. And it has been used extensively by all classes of people. So a host of meanings have been attached to it. But bhava properly would mean nothing but to exist. You find your own existence within yourself. That's bhava. You know yourself. So many of us, hey, we exist, of course, but your existence is now, you can say, suffused with the idea of your body. Yes, I exist. Yeah. Oh, really? And when you get hit on the head and you swoon, you faint, and then what happened to your body? So you have not understood existence. You have just understood existence as bodily existence. And that's why the fear of death, etc. In that state of bhava, there's no fear of death or anything. You've understood existence. Then that stage itself deepens, it becomes mahabhava. that is reserved for the few, the very few, because we don't have that kind of preparations and that concentration. So as these things are progressing, the first thing that you will find is reverence. The first, you can start with reverence. What reverence towards what? Towards everything that's holy or sacred. Now that includes yourself also. And then to the deity, etc. To the modes of worship, to any places, whether it's a pilgrimage, or whether it's a temple or a mosque or a synagogue or a Buddhist stupa, anything, you will have reverence to it. You will have reverence to that particular worship, because you know, Swamiji gives an example of we must develop a canine instinct. The dog can recognize its master in whichever dress it comes. But so the Lord appears to us different garbs. But I don't know what we are like. We say, no, if he comes only in this form, then it is my God. Otherwise, these are delusions of the mind. So we must develop that canine instinct. That comes through that bhava. And that brings in reverence to all modes of worship, all forms of religion, everything. You know, like that later on is expanded towards the external world. The river, which was considered just a river, now is sacred. Because people have been thinking that this river is sacred. Like I always tell about these, the idea of these Native American sacred sites, The mountain is sacred, that river is sacred, that forest is sacred, yeah. So this idea of the sacredness, that reverence grows. So this is the very first sign that you have progressed in bhakti. Then comes, it's called priti. It's called just love. And what is it? So we have this great love for the sense objects, and we just can't get away from them. If you can direct that kind of love towards you can say deity, your chosen ideal, that is called love. That you hold it like grim death. You're not going to let it go. So that is called priti. That's the second one. Third is, people find a natural kind of annoyance in the presence of those they don't love. Suppose you are amongst 10 people and you love one person. The other 9 people are kind of, I wish they were away. I could be with my beloved. Yeah? So a similar thing happens with bhakti. You're put away by all the mundane talk and all the things that will deflect your mind from your goal, your defined goal. So this is what happens. It's called priti and it's viraha. So viraha is now, from priti comes viraha. Viraha is now a kind of an anguish. If you don't see the beloved, your day is flat out. The day you see a beloved, that makes all the difference. So this viraha does come. So, what happens in many scriptural, you can say, bhakti literature, you find most aspirants, they get a kind of a glimpse. And then it's kind of as if it's taken away. And then, oh my God, this guy pants and to recapture it. And this is what actually happens. And there's a kind of a pain of not obtaining that particular object or the vision or whatever that you had. So this actually impels one forward. So this is how bhakti progresses. So it's a viraha, it's a kind of a pain that's felt. Sri Ramakrishna had gone to Benares with Mathur Babu and the rest, And then all these kings and all these big landlords, they were talking about money and property. And Sri Ramakrishna said, "Oh, mother, why did you bring me out here? I was fine in Dakshineshwar. I have to listen to all this talk and my ears are burning." So this is what happens, Viraha. You don't want your mind now to be deflected too far. And at the same time, you want to, again, recapture your vision or the feeling that you have. It's kind of an oceanic feeling. And then suddenly you are put in a bottle. And how do you feel like that? Oh, I want to get out of this bottle. So this is that kind of pain. And this is experienced by everyone. The Christian mystics speak about it as the dark night of the soul. When the soul, of course in this intense form, when the soul starts panting to get out of this darkness, to get that light again. So, and it comes. But sometimes it takes days, weeks, months, maybe years. But it's not a pain in the physical sense, of course. The pain of not re-obtaining that which I got, which was given to me. And then you keep on going forward. And that is the sweetest of pains. And in love, everything becomes sweet. Even pain becomes sweet. A still higher form is there, where now your life has become completely dependent on the Lord. It's like you have seen the vastness of that God's love, and you feel suffused with that. Then whatever you do, your thoughts, your words, your deeds are all for the sake of the Lord. You have dedicated yourself to this, your beloved. It's called Tadartam Prana Samsthana. It is, I live for this love, nothing else. Yes, this is what happens, like, when, there was a Swami Vivekananda's disciple called Nivedita. Margaret, she was Irish. And he gave her the name Nivedita, the dedicated one. So this is what happens. You dedicate your thoughts, your words and deeds to a higher ideal. Because now you've convinced that this is what I want, I've got a glimpse, and for this I'm going to even give my life for. And that is important. Bhakti Yoga, at one point of time, your individual preferences, your individual stupidities or whatever, they are all kind of gone. You are now living for something higher and something greater. And you know that this love that is within me is also there in a vaster degree. And so this is what connects me with this. In Bhakti Yoga, it's always like that. This love that is there, it's always associated with bliss. We think, oh, love. Oh, love. Yes, a kind of dry sort of love. We see, in the world, we see dry sorts of love. Everything is okay. Love always is associated with bliss. So here you are understanding this, that I am dedicating myself to this higher form of love, which is bliss. Because in Vedanta they say that Ananda, that is the idea of bliss, is always associated with consciousness and existence. So as your love keeps on growing, your bliss keeps on growing, and your idea or your sense of existence has now come out of your old genetic limitations. You see that love everywhere. You will see it in everything. And you begin to love the world. These are the great lovers of the world. They go through, they have not been understood, these great saints. And they are found in all religions. It's not only just in one particular religion, in all religions. They love that world because now they have understood that that love is now everywhere in this universe. And they dedicate their life for this love. Then comes you can see the final rung when you step into that. Your real individuality has now been understood. You know your individuality as, your individual consciousness is understood as that universal consciousness. So this consciousness which is there within, this life is within me, or this existence which is there within me, is now understood to be universal. And it is there when love finds its fulfillment. So it's said, oh, that person has attained God. In a way, it's becoming one with that universal consciousness, or the truth, or the reality, whatever you say. So the idea of a definite form of God has now melted away. You will see that Lord everywhere. So it's called tadiyata, thatness, or an identification. No longer you will have a vision of God. There's no need for a vision of God, because you will always have subject and an object. So God is an object? Vedanta will say, oh, no. God can never be an object. You are an object. God is a subject. Then everything, the subject and the object, merges. So sometimes, you say, I am thou, thou art me. In the gospel we find Sri Ramakrishna. At that intense stage, the idea of differentiation has gone away. So one time, Sri Ramakrishna used to teach Swamiji in various ways. So Sri Ramakrishna used to smoke sometimes that Hubble bubble, from the smoke from the Hubble bubble, the long hookah. You call it the Hubble bubble because it makes a sound of the bubbly sound. So he used to have that. And he was very fastidious about touch, etc. So he smoked and then he gave it to Swamiji. No, sorry, Swamiji smoked it and then gave it to Sri Ramakrishna. Now Sri Ramakrishna wiped the mouth of the hookah, which is generally, it was his habit. So he's saying, no, you wipe clean the mouth, and then you've got a terrible sense of differentiation. Don't you see that we are both one? And so all his Swami Vivekananda's protestations now, Sri Ramakrishna, he was smoking with that hubble bubble, that long hookah. So later on, he found that whatever he did was to this higher consciousness of Ramakrishna. We also will come to this higher idea that this higher consciousness, this higher love is manifesting through my body and mind. And that will be the culmination of bhakti. You have not only touched the ocean. Sri Ramakrishna says, when you're going towards the ocean, first thing you'll say, from a distance you will understand it by, you get a breeze, ocean. And then as you progress further, you will hear the breeze, you will hear the sound as well as feel the breeze. And then you see the ocean. Then you touch the ocean. And then you plunge in the ocean. This is, in his nice, simple way he has explained, this is how you, at this stage, you have plunged. You have become love. You are seeking the higher expression of your own existence, your own life. And you have found it here. So this has made you universal. Otherwise, if you still think that I love only this and not that, that's just the beginner state. You love everything. You will see the Lord, that same consciousness in all beings. You will love everything. And Swamiji says these people, they just simply melt down in love. The idea of resistance, etc., has gone away from their lives. They are simply there. And that is the goal of Bhakti Yoga. All yogas, of course. And at this stage, knowledge, devotion, jnana and bhakti, yoga, etc., all converge. That is the very end. This is the very goal. To make the individual into the universal. To have that experience. Bhakti Yoga is the easiest because, as I said, it's natural and these paths are known to us. Sometimes they might not appear to us as a stage by stage. In many cases, it is found that some of these steps, some of these come to us as a kind of cluster. There's reverence, there's the priti, and there's tadiyata, and all these things. They come together. Depends on the intensity. But as you progress, these will be clearly marked within you. You will intuit it. Okay, now this is what. And then, so what is the goal of Bhakti Yoga? Yes, the realization of the self. So, what happens? People always have this idea, oh, I've realized a self within the body. We know that. We just dismiss it off as kind of ridiculous. When you realize yourself, you will realize yourself everywhere. That is the realization of the self. Myself in the body? No. You start with that, of course. You have to know yourself to really get a handle on what you are, what is your potential, what is your nature. And then you progress, and then you come to the realization of the self. And many people say, oh, I'm only real because I've realized the self and everything is an illusion. Everything is that consciousness. The Bhakti Yogi will speak about it. And for the Bhakti Yogi, for him, this is the reality. Everywhere. There is no illusion. The illusion was the illusion of separateness, of that false individuality. That goes away. And then, like space which is enclosed in a jar, and the jar is broken, what happens? That space escapes, which it was always there. That space outside was the same space within. As that individuality goes away, it merges. So that is what the Bhakti Yogi experiences. Okay. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Tat Sat Sri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu. There haven't any questions come in here. So if you can start with, if there's any questions here, I'll try to. Yeah.
Beautiful talk. Thank you so much, Swamiji. You said something I found really interesting. That if I understood correctly, that as your spiritual love and devotion grows, you naturally become more straightforward.
Yes.
And I had never thought of that, but it struck me as very true. And I was wondering if you could speak more about the relationship between this devotion and love and becoming more straightforward.
Yes. The question is, as your love grows, you become more straightforward. And that is one of the hallmarks of science, because you become transparent, not only to yourself, but to others also. And secondly, there is no compulsion of, social, you can say, what will that person think of me? No. I know what I am, and this is what I'm stating. You are not out to hurt somebody, but you're not trying to hide yourself with something false, trying to distract the attention or trying to embellish yourself, nothing like that. You're just here. So that transparency does come, that openness does come. And Sri Ramakrishna says that those who are straightforward, that the idea of straightforward means that they have had a lot of spiritual practices behind that. So, yeah, there it is. So, straightforwardness is one of the best ways to purify the mind, because there is now no kind of, no Jekyll and Hyde. There's nothing like. So, we always have this grandiose image of ourselves within us that we want to project to the world, that we are not a small, puny weakling. People don't see that. They see a small, puny weakling. But this guy thinks, oh, I'm grand. I've got a grand. So that image of yours, in fact, I remember last year I had spoken about self-images and how that the first thing to dismiss is that grandiose image, because we have conceived of this, it's an illusory image. We have conceived of ourselves in a false image. That goes away, because now we are understanding the power of love. Because even if you say something damning, that person or the persons know that this person loves us. We were, when we had joined the monastery, we were scolded left and right, and thrashed sometimes, with words, of course. And then we used to get so upset. Then the Swami used to come, we scold you because we love you. Yeah, first love us and then scold us. But it was that we felt that they were doing it for our own benefit. So when we are straightforward, you will say, you're not trying to hurt somebody. If you're straightforward and going to hurt somebody, that's why they say, Satyam vada, priyam vada. So speak what is truth, and speak what is lovable or dear. Don't speak that which is not lovable, which is hurtful. Even if it's true. Yeah, but don't have to speak about it. Yeah,
Can we?
Like Holy Mother said, you don't ask a blind man, oh, how did you become blind? So, I was blind. So that way.
Following up on that, the same line of thinking, the stuff you were talking about where it's like it's just painful to talk about worldly things, and it's like, can I just check out of here or check out of this friend group or these situations? How do you do that kindly? Because you know what, it's all cool if they're there with that, but it's like done.
Yeah. This is another question from a sister here. She said, how do you avoid the mundane talk when you are progressing in spirituality? You don't want to hear things that counter to your spirituality, the mundane talk, the small talk. So yeah, we have to go through it, don't worry, because we meet all types of people. Gently veer the conversation towards your spirituality, towards a high ideal. Because what happens is, if you keep on criticizing them, trying to avoid them, when you sit down to meditate, all those things will also come back to you. Because at this stage, your mind has become very sensitive. So what you do is, I think, there was a time when I was on that stage. So I don't have to. I have grown. So simply like that you are growing. The next thing you do is avoid certain places and people. And this also, you don't have to do it consciously. This is done subconsciously. Your spiritual practices will keep you away from certain things. Yes, like this discernment about food. You yourself will know. You will keep yourself away from certain foods. It becomes natural. Now, this, when it happens, the third is when they see you as, we have a deep sense of intuition. We recognize people, and we understand them. And there are those who are a little dull. But generally people, they understand each other. And if they see that the other person doesn't like this kind of talk, so they might do it 1 day, 2 days, but they will avoid that particular kind of conversation. When they look at you, look at your face, look at your eyes, this person doesn't really appreciate these kind of things. So, and then further, the practice of yoga, that's another important thing. You might think it's a personal thing and we are doing it, but you are actually influencing the world in a very subtle way. Yes. So you are influencing the people around you. You are changing even their thought currents. That's what actually happens. So those people will come to you, and they say, birds of a feather flock together. You might not like sitting down with the crows, where you might come and sit down with the doves. You'll seek those out. So that love, for that divine love itself, is going to protect you. Then what we do is take this also as a test of your love for the divine. Let's see. If you're getting irritated, you have not yet become solid in it. So take that also as to understand how you are reacting. It's okay. When your kid was young, he did all the crazy things. How did you look at it? Oh, it's okay. He'll grow up. That's way. Okay. Okay. There's no questions here. So, any questions more? Yeah.
So, Satyamayananda is like the highest form of love and sort of process. is that like a point of no return, or can you still enjoy those other forms of love? It's kind of like a lila, right?
Yes,
like,
yes,
while
yes.
understanding what that really is.
Oh, yes, yes, yes. So it's like Sri Ramakrishna said, you go there, you reach the roof, and then you find the roof is made of the same materials that the stairs and the other rooms and the building and the walls were made of. So you go up there and then, oh, everything is. So you find your love everywhere. So that is there. There is no point of no return. You can come back. And that's what there's in one of the books that even, this is more to put in the idea that even these great sages who followed the path of jnana, that's a very stern, strict path, not the path of, you can, this kind of, this is more easy. You know? But even those guys who killed out all other forms of devotion to every other thing, they go up, reach there, and after reaching there, they come and they enjoy love. So this is found in the Bhagavatam, where Atmarti mumukshayo nirgranto api mumukshayo kurvanti ayetuki bhakti ittam bhutagana. So even those people who have reached that stage do come down and enjoy the bliss of God as the Leela, as they say. So that is, thank you for that wonderful question. Yes. So it is there. Because now everything has become, the whole universe has become love. And you love the whole universe, and it doesn't matter now. This is what the end stage of bhakti is. There's no point of no return. You become the all. So when you have the point of no return, you are still an individual, small thing. You like drop in the ocean and gone. No. Come back and see the whole thing. Okay. So, okay, then, yeah.
If I heard it correctly, I think you said Sri Ramakrishna was all bhakti outside and jnana inside, but he spread so much wisdom, and so why is jnana inside?
Yeah. So, like I said, it's like saying that his external, when we could see him, it was all kind of bhakti outside and jnana inside. Yeah. So, and Swamiji was jnana outside and all bhakti inside. These are both complementary. The first, because of the disciplines of jnana are extremely different, exclusive. So you find, Sri Ramakrishna says, these oil cakes, just fed to cows, if they have been mixed with molasses, the cow likes them. So Sri Ramakrishna's teachings are both, if you see, both jnana and bhakti. And one is actually not, sometimes it is predominant bhakti, sometimes it's predominantly jnana. But his appearance was something like this. As Swamiji is also, he was stern and strict outside and all that. But of course he used to cut jokes and laugh and all. But he had a very tender, soft heart. It just used to melt. Well, when he was going around the world and even in India, when he used to see like poverty and illiteracy and all these things, his heart used to simply burst and he used to weep. So if you see Swamiji, him weeping, what is this? His disciples themselves said about Swamiji, he was L-O-V-E. So he had a very tender heart. He appeared to be one of the sages of Vedanta. But yeah. And if you don't, the Vedanta will of course lead you down to that. Your heart becomes very tender. It has become so expansive. So in one place he tells Swami Turiyananda, just before he could leave for the West, so he's saying, see, Haribhai, I don't understand any of your religion, but my heart has grown so large. I feel the world's pains. And Swami Turiyananda is saying, aren't these the words of the Buddha? So Buddha also, he spread such knowledge around, but he had a tender heart. So his knowledge, his teachings had come from that tender heart, Swamiji's teaching. So that's what it is. Okay. So interesting. Is differentiation not needed for fair recognition of different contexts of individuals? Is differentiation not needed? Oh yeah, this world is differentiated and we have, every individual is different. And not only the individual is different from another individual, but that individual itself in the morning is one type of individual, in the afternoon is another. It's very difficult to point, this guy is this type of individual. So it's that differentiation everywhere. There are not two similar things found in nature. Nature is very stingy. Yeah, she will not do two things together. Even twins, they are similar, but they are dissimilar also. So you will find there's every living organism is different from each other, period. But that's on the surface. When you go down to the heart of that particular living thing, it's all same. It's all the self, the Atman. So you have to behave with that person accordingly. And then you will have a nice, you can say, a peaceful relationships with all people. Don't treat everybody the same way. You, in the sense of, yeah, look at them as parts of the divine. But you must be able to, if a sick person is saying, okay, don't worry, you will be all right. Why don't you give him some medicine? So if you say, if there's a sick person there, say, why don't you run a mile? That will cure you. No. You speak according to that person's state of mind and the person's individuality. You cannot tell a person who is wheelchair bound, saying, you see, you became wheelchair bound because you were not sprinting. Okay, let's do some sprinting. So, Shri Ramakrishna used to teach Holy Mother these things in a homely way. Every vessel has a different sized covering. So you must know which size of the covering fits which vessel. So you must be able to judge that. And we can do that, of course. So you follow this principle. The differentiation is reason. There's already differentiation. But at the heart of the differentiation is that self, which is, we are the same there inside. So race and sex and culture and all these things are just on the surface. We are all same there. But when you're interacting with the people, you must be able to interact with them. And once you have devotion to a deity, you will interact with them with love. Understand their needs, particular individual needs, and serve them. Okay, think. And those who are still willing to ask questions, I'll be around. Okay. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Tat Sat Shri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu. This evening we also have Ram Naam from 7 o'clock. So those who are interested in this bhajans can come along.